Hello. Welcome to another cruiser inspection in World of Warships. Boys, fellas, the end of 2025. It might just be year of the cruiser, buddy. Wargaming putting in a premium German cruiser. It's not a hybrid and it's not dog shit. Absolutely enormous if true, and it is in fact true. It's the Bremen, the Bremen. We're probably going to say Bremen. Basically, what is the Bremen? Tier 10 mines. Good description. Side grade to Hindenburg. Good description. Um, what is the difference between Bremen and Hindenburg? Well, got the mines guns. They're low caliber, 150s. They pen 38 with the HE. The AP doesn't really pen anything. Like you don't Citadel things, but it's good enough for, upper belt pens. Um, so basically, comparing this ship to Hindenburg, you have a worse hull. You have meaningfully worse armor with 25 nose and ass. Kind of a weirder like superstructure. In my opinion, I don't know. That might be coping. Um, and you have a lot more raw DPM, like 50%. Yes, 50% more raw DPM than Hindenburg. But you don't Citadel anything with the AP, and you don't pen 51 with the HE. So the HE pens 38. The AP doesn't Citadel anything. You Citadel light cruisers at like 9 kilometers, right? So you kind of don't ever Citadel. Something like a Des Moines, you don't even attempt to Citadel until you're like 6 cam away. So it's just raw pen damage. And so we are, in fact, if you notice the title card, we are doing a two-part review on the Bremen because part one is Lighthouse, buddy. And my first half of my games played in Bremen were Lighthouse, and then we switched to Full Conceal. TLDW, Full Conceal is better, but Lighthouse is outrageously silly and outrageously goofy. And I'm sorry for the audio issues. The replay files got corrupted, so the footage is from a downloaded file rather than the actual replay file. That's why there's no game audio, but it is what it is. So we're looking at two Lighthouse Bremen games, and actually the two first games I played in Bremen. So this is actually game 1 and 2 of the 10 games I played the day of recording this. And then we're going to look at two back-to-back normal spec Bremen games for part 2. From the same play session. So same day, both of these reviews, and then the next part of the video, both reviews all recorded the same day. And both specs are quite good. Lighthouse is just a DPM ship Fiesta. Now you see here something. Oh my goodness, we're on 1 HP in a dream. Yes, okay, I'm sure you've noticed that. But the Essex on my team is smoking me. My teammate is helping me in random battles, guys. My teammate is helping me in random battles. And my takeaway for Bremen is, this is a Lighthouse Bremen review, is you run Lighthouse Bremen if you play it in a div. If you are going to play this thing in a division, so you have spotting for yourself, and or maybe you have smoking, then you run Lighthouse, because the DPM on this fucking clown car, buddy, is absolutely outrageous. The base DPM is over 300k. Cheesing top grade gunner plus heavy HE is giving us another nearly 20% DPM, so putting us around 360,000 DPM. We then hit 140 shell hits with Gunnar Lutyens, as some folks are known to call him, which then puts us up to about 400,000 HE DPM, and then of course we are on low HP, getting a 15% reload buff with the low HP pull. And the DPM, boys, the DPM on this clown car is diabolical with Lighthouse build. We're at about 500k HE DPM. That pens 38. And we are no shit pushing a million AP DPM. So this ship has like Hindenburg, what I refer to as fuck you DPM. It doesn't really matter what ship you're fighting as long as you pen it. It doesn't really matter if a main is clicking you for 25k on cooldown. you're clicking him for 5k every three. I mean, look at this reload, dude. We're at a 3.2 second reload due to max AR and Lutyen's buff. And top grade gunner being cheesed. I mean, it's fucking crazy. So if it's, if we're pushing 500k HE DPM, okay, aren't we just a better version of Hindenburg? Isn't this just objectively horrible, unjustifiable, outrageous power creep over Hindenburg? I'm actually going to say no, it isn't. And I think the answer is no for a couple reasons. Number one, Hindenburg is a lot more survivable than Bremen. It gets a bonus heal. It's the better hull. I believe, might be coping. I believe it's even slightly more maneuverable. And Hindenburg has consistency. So yes, if we pen 38, this is the boat all day, every day. Like it's kind of like if you're in a Worcester versus Des Moines. I think that's a really good way of looking at it. That Bremen is kind of like the Worcester, and Hindenburg is kind of like the Des Moines, where the Worcester has like a lot better raw DPM, but doesn't pen nearly as much, and the Des Moines has a lot worse raw DPM, but it's more effective DPM on more targets. Now, I do think that's not quite a perfect comparison because I think this ship compared to Hindenburg is better than Worcester is compared to Des Moines. But it's kind of similar. Another big difference is very different torpedo scheme on Bremen. Objectively better torps. Yes, 100%. You get 10, they're Elbing torps, basically. They hit like a truck, they go 50 knots, they go 12 km. 12 km Elbing torps, 2 racks per side. Really good torps. Way better than Hindenburg because, like, yeah, Hindenburg torps, if you're inside of 6 km, are 20% faster. Maybe that matters, but then again, like, it has 2 less torps per side, and they even do less damage, right? So just way better torps. You can zone, you can kite and span them behind you. Another reason we're going to get into in the next video why I think concealment is better. But so objectively better torps than Hindenburg, way higher raw DPM, 50% higher raw DPM. But a couple of things: ships covered in 40 or more. Hindenburg has better HE DPM against them. And then a big deal, a very big deal that I don't think I've really seen anyone talk about with the Bremen is you can't really Citadel anything. And that's kind of like it's not like the thing that makes Hindenburg good, but it's very, very nice when a Des Moines is caught flat to your Hindenburg at 15 kilometers and you blow it up in 2 fucking salvos because you have 72k alpha strike with Hindi AP and you get Citadels. Now, Bremen, like, can chunk that Des Moines for 10k every 4 seconds, but Hindenburg can chunk it for 20k every 8 seconds. So, and it's Citadel damage, right? So, like, if you got like a 10-second window of opportunity against a flat broadside cruiser, Hindenburg all the way because you get Citadels. Long-term farming on ships you pen with AP. On Bremen, it's way better because it's just raw 50% almost better DPM than the Hindenburg. It's incredible. Now, and this game is a perfect example of the obscene DPM, but also why I think the TLDW on Lighthouse is you play this if you're in a div. Overall, it's not really worth it. Now, there's 2 schools of thought, right? One school of thought with Lighthouse Bremen would be, well, I already have such absurd DPM, I have no reason to buff it. We might as well be more survivable. That's number one. Number 2 is I already have so much DPM. Buffing it is outrageously more DPM than another ship, right? Because I mean, the percentage of buff DPM versus Hindenburg is the same, right? I mean, if you build full Lighthouse Hindi, you end up with somewhere around like close to 300k HE DPM. But if you build, maybe 260, something like that. But if you build Bremen for full Lighthouse, then, the percent goes up the same. Full Lighthouse build, you take the raw DPM and you basically slap 30% on it because you're giving 10% HE damage. You're giving 8% top grade gunner, and you're giving 12% reload buff, right? So you take the raw DPM listed in like ship tool, add 30%. So for Bremen, that gives you basically 400,000 HE DPM. For Hindenburg, that gives you, something more like 250. But so like you bump your DPM in Bremen by almost 100k HE DPM, which is fucking absurd. But you also, with just reload mod, have like 340k HE DPM. So it's like, really? We need more DPM. So yeah, I mean, some people would say, yes, you obviously run Lighthouse build because bonus 100,000 HE DPM instead of bonus 40,000 HE DPM all day, every day. I'm kind of the opposite. I'm going like this already has fuck you DPM if you pen things, and I would rather live like this game, right? I mean, imagine this game without Essex. Okay, yeah. I mean, I donated a bunch of HP early, sure, skill issue, but like you don't really have any survivability in this boat Lighthouse. Um, you've kind of got to play at 18 cam, and then that kind of leads us into a discussion on shell velocity, right? Shell velocity is not bad on Bremen. Like, it's not Worcester or anything, but it's not good. Shooting beyond 18 km, spotter plane up, isn't ideal. In a perfect universe, you are shooting somewhere around 14 to 17 kilometers in Bremen. So, you kind of don't have that luxury of doing that when you go full lighthouse. You're kind of pig spotted, and there's some ships that can really abuse you because of your floatier shells and the fact that you're not, even with rudder mod, even with steering swapping out concealment, um, you're not the most maneuverable ship, and boats with really good shell velocity can really make your life hell by getting to fight you on their terms. You're cruising around with 18 km detect in Lighthouse Bremen, and a Zhao like pig spots you. Like, what do? He can open up that engagement at 15 km, and you can't go dark, but you can't win. Even though you have double Zhao DPM, you can't beat him because he's way more maneuverable with way better shell velocity. So he just like clicks you for 10k on cooldown, and yeah, you've got half the reload with similar salvo weight, but you can't really utilize it because he's dodging all your shells at 15, right? Whereas if you run full detect and get down to like 13 km detect, which isn't good for a cruiser, right? It's not good for a cruiser. And I'm the Lighthouse cruiser guy. I'm building everything Lighthouse these days, but it does put you in a very difficult situation in Bremen because you don't have the shell velocity to compete with some cruisers when they open up on you at medium range, and you can't go dark against them, and it's a little bit awkward. And the other reason why Lighthouse works, I think, much better on Hindenburg than Bremen, two reasons. One is that on Hindenburg you can run the ledge mod that is crazy, that makes you completely immune to fire and floods. You just don't take fire and flood damage in that, and you get maneuverability, and Hindenburg gets bonus heal, and Hindenburg gets 27 nose and ass. So Hindenburg is very substantially more survivable than Bremen, whether full concealment or a full lighthouse. Substantially more survivable than Bremen, but also it's not a 100% complete disaster if a certain ship or another is catching you in Lighthouse Hindi, right? Lighthouse Hindi 17.5 detect. Vermont can be 12.6. Disaster. But Hindenburg pens Vermont everywhere. Like, Vermont can't really commit on a Hindenburg on full HP. Um, it will probably win the trade overall, but it will suffer egregiously in the process of killing that Hindenburg. Because, yes, Lighthouse Hindi kiting a Vermont will get 20k on cooldown if Vermont can aim. Yes, 100%. 20k on cooldown. But the Hindenburg is pumping in 5k HE salvos into Vermont every 7 seconds, whereas the Bremen is not. It has better fire starting than Hindenburg, actually noticeably better, almost 50% better fires per minute on Bremen than Hindenburg, but it doesn't have that fuck you pen. It doesn't have that 51 pen. So if you are pig spotted by something like a Vermont in Bremen, yeah, you can light fires and farm is, maybe perfectly saturated superstructure, but that's kind of where your limitations go, right? I mean, yeah, you can do that, of course, but it's not the same, right? It's not this, like, Vermont can't afford to throw his whole boat away in pursuit of a Hindenburg. Vermont can kind of throw his boat away in pursuit of a Bremen. It's he's just gonna suffer less because mostly you're just getting the fires on the Vermont, right? And the same thing is true of like a Colombo with the 50 deck, right? The same thing is true like that game we were farming, double Yamato hulls, right? Obviously. So you trade consistency across all targets. You trade the ability to Citadel cruisers for if you pen them, you massacre things. Absolutely massacre them. Strong case to be made that this is like the highest effective DPM in the game. I guess like what Jacksonville F key maybe, but that doesn't even pen 38, right? That pens 30. No, it might pen 40. I don't know. But of a tier 10 cruiser, probably the highest effective HE DPM if you are shooting targets 38 or under, right? It is just monstrous DPM you see here on the map. Like we have 18.1 km gun range and worst detection. So, we're gonna push in here, and also, the torp between 12 km paired with about 13 km surface detect if you full build does lead to situations where, like, this torp loot is quite good, right? It's like a little over 2-minute torpedo reload, but you get 20 torpedoes. So you actually have a non trivial torpedo threat kiting people out. uh if you start a flank near the middle of the map and start kiting and go dark, people actually have to be careful that they are pushing into 20 Elbing torps potentially, right? So it's a nice thing to have. It's nice to zone. You kind of can't really ever zone when your Lighthouse spec is what it is, right? Like, I kind of would almost love to dive this island, but I can't do that in Lighthouse Bremen. So we're gonna play like a bit of a bitch. And the ship is great though. I mean, you can't go wrong Lighthouse or full detect mod. I mean, it's just, and the Bremen, unlike the Hawaii, we will look at the Hawaii shortly. Unlike the Hawaii, the Bremen, because it's more of a traditional dodging cruiser, right? You're not tanking via hull. You're like a traditional heavy cruiser where, like, you have okay armor depending on the ship shooting at you, right? You can like kind of live a bit, but mostly you're trying to, like, say half dodge, half take the hits. Whereas a cruiser like Hawaii is more about like just taking the hits and relying on armor to not suck. Um, I like, Ooga Booga. Part of my brain is like AWSDQRSTUV, dodge, dodge, shoot, dodge, shoot, dodge, shoot, dodge, shoot, dodge. And I also really enjoy like the Bremen has a very comfortable reload. I don't really know how to describe this, but I don't like ships with a really fast reload. There's something about it where, like, my lack of brain cells short circuits when I'm shooting like every 2.5 seconds, like out of a G-Nan or a Minotaur, or especially out of something like a Sherman, which is horrific to me, Druid, where it's like, oh, 10 salvos in. Oh, my shell. Oh, I'm overleading. Okay. Well, I just shot like 100,000 damage into the sky all at once. And I can't really figure out where my aim is until it's too late, right? So you see here we are farming. We've got a Colombo, we've got a PVO, we've got an Incomparable, we've got a Napoli, we've got a Hawaii. Now, Bremen eats Hawaii alive. 38 deck eats PVO alive, and we are going to eat his fucking ass later, boys. But if you notice, look at the damage numbers coming in out of this Colombo. Nine pens, 16 shatters, and that's going to kind of a trend that's going to continue, right? 13 and 24. You notice that we're getting about 1 to 2 pens versus non-pens, and on Hindenburg, that's mostly pens. Yeah, Hindenburg doesn't pen his upper belt. We were probably hitting a bit of upper belt, but the point is, again, against something like Colombo, Hindenburg is a lot better. In comp, Hindenburg is a lot better. However, Hindenburg and Bremen both pen this man's deck. This man's deck is 30 fucking millimeters, buddy. And his nose is 25 and his ass is 25. And you can see for yourself the damage. It is 3 to 5k pumping into this man every 4 seconds. It is outrageous. And Bremen, to me, listen, dude, I am on record many times as saying I don't care if cruisers are OP in the gigantic 2025. I don't really care if cruisers are OP. But what do I always caveat that with? I don't care if cruisers clown on PBs, right? I don't care if cruisers feel overpowered into battleships a whole lot. But my biggest issue with this boat is what it does to cruisers, and it's an outrage to me. I mean, the DPM is frankly just overtuned. It's just overtuned. Um, there's just no cruiser that can fight this thing. I mean, really, unless like the example I gave of like a Zhao at 15 kilometers, like a Ven at 50, right? Like ships with really good shell velocity and better maneuvering than this thing, at medium range. Um, if it's running Lighthouse spec, can dictate the fight and do good damage back into it. But like cruisers inside of 13, bro, they're cooked. They're absolutely cooked. They are 100% completely fucked. That's all there is to it. I mean, this guy, once he decided to take that fight, he was dead. He was dead a million out of a million times. There is no universe in the fucking multiverse. I mean, bro, you're on a rock in Des Moines shooting your little two front guns. Pew pew, pew pew. You're shooting your two front guns in Des Moines. What the fuck do you do into this thing? What the fuck do you do? And it's not just that, but I mean, I've said this in the last, like, with the Utrecht reviews, right? I mean, the state of cruisers, I just, like, wargaming will do anything but give them armor. I mean, that's just where we're at. Like, they will do anything but give cruisers armor in 2025. I mean, why does this thing have to have, you know, with, like, even a normal build 350k HE DPM, right? That pens 38. Like, why does it have to have that? Well, they don't want to give it armor. They don't want to give it concealment. They don't want to. So then, like, what does Wargaming do with these cruisers? Well, they get smoke, like Jinan, like Incheon, right? Like, anytime a cruiser is quote unquote OP, it's because it has outrageously overtuned DPM. Nice Colombo moment. We also don't really, we're back to farming Colombo, right? 7 and then non pens, right? We can only pen his superstructure. Again, Hindenburg is just so much better in this situation. Even though it has 2/3 the DPM, it, like, gets you all pens, right? So we're kind of cringing on this rock, trying to just tutor it. I mean, the game's already over. My team has lost the game, as you can see. We've got AFK adventurers on the east flank, and then we're just getting run over on this flank, basically, right? So that's the state of cruisers, right? I mean, they are either, like, pure dog shit, or if they're good, it's because they're just the DPM is outrageously overtuned, right? Like Utrecht, Jinan, Incheon, Bremen now, Hawaii. They just have clown car DPM, and that's what Wargaming, like, feels like they have to do because they don't want to give armor to cruisers anymore. Like, we just, no more Moskva, no more Petro. Unfortunately, that guy dies. We couldn't get to showcase the AP DPM, but it's kind of tragic because I love this DPM. I mean, like, selfishly, I'm not complaining in the sense that I don't enjoy brutalizing the fuck out of people with this DPM. But I just recognize that, like, it's this horrible situation where if you're in certain BBs, the ship isn't, like, if you're in a Colombo, you don't care about Bremen farming you. I mean, he only pens your superstructure and the tip of your nose and ass, and you just click him for half his boat every time you shoot at him. So what does that matter? But what if you're in a Montana? I mean, what the fuck if you're in a Montana, fellas? And this is what's really funny to me. I find this really funny. We talk about on this channel, the real bias in this game is, of course, American bias. American ships are just crazy good all the time. Doesn't even make sense. They're just, if it becomes American, it just gets good. And I feel like the game design of cruisers and even some BBs lately is just anti-American BB. Like PVO is simply an anti-USN ship. It pens 39 with main guns. Well, 38 is what matters. Pens 38 with main guns. The bombs pen USN deck, and, like, basically no other BB deck that matters other than, like, Sabir, a new ship. Willem de Ursta, it's an anti-USN BB with the bombs. It massacres Montana and Maine and kind of, like, annoys other ships. Bremen massacres Montana and Maine. Tickles Colombo. Of course, we get flat side platings on Colombo, so we do get to enjoy that. Now we're going to get in another cruiser fight. We're half HP, and we're fighting a Hawaii, and he's dead. He's actually dead. He's got no chance because he has Clown Car DPM too. He could load his F key and use the AP. He could use the very funny, he has, like, almost a million AP DPM or whatever the fuck it actually is. But we're going to get instantly angled, and we're going to load HE, and we pen his upper belt, we pen his deck, we pen his nose, we pen his ass, we pen everything but his waterline platings, basically. And we're still on half HP, but now he's bow in, he's minimal DPM, and we're just shitting HE DPM. We're just shitting the damage. 5K. 3 seconds, what's the reload looking like? What's the reload looking like, boys? 3.3 second reload. 5K every 3.3 seconds, 20 fires a minute with the build. We're pushing again. We're again pushing 500,000 HE DPM, and we pen them everywhere. Clown Car v Clown Car crime, truly. The FBI statistics do track that eventually. So that's, just two cruisers absolutely massacred. And That's really what Bremen is like. The side grade of Hindenburg is cruiser killing. Like farming cruisers is this thing what kind of again, unfortunately, like Utrecht. It's unfortunate, but it's true. The boat, yes, is good at farming BBs. Yes, this is great at farming BBs. Incredibly good at farming BBs. But it annihilates cruisers. It massacres them. They don't stand a chance, dude. Like, they don't stand a chance. What do you do into 500,000 HE DPM Bremen that pens you everywhere? What do you do in your Des Moines? You die. What do you do in any. Pick a boat, pick a cruiser. Pick a cruiser, boys. I mean, okay, maybe like Moskva, Petros, but then it has 20 fires a minute. Oh my god. Oh my god. And I don't think it's necessary personally. It's a great ship. Enjoy it. Most fun boat in the Steel Will event, I would say. Definitely worth getting if you have Hindenburg. It's just a great different take on Hindenburg. Um, Massacres cruisers, but a little bit worse at farming BBs. We're going to use the flat broadside tech. He aims a little bit too high, right? And we're going to start pumping into this guy. But something worth noting is like Hindenburg doesn't get these non-pens. See all these non-pens that we're getting? Those aren't non-pens on his Citadel. No. Those are non-pens on his upper belt, which is 101 millimeters on Incomp, which according to Reddit, of course, is bad armor. But yeah, that's 101 millimeters of armor, and he's slightly angled, so we don't pen it at 10 km. It's kind of rough, dude. It's kind of rough. Hindenburg can just shit 10k volleys into that guy, and we kind of struggle. So another good example, we've got an Incomp, we've got a Colombo. Hindenburg is just way better against those ships, more survivable, more effective damage output. But that Hawaii and that PVO, I mean, like, what have you ever seen a cruiser kill another cruiser that fast? Outside of like Austin Reload Booster or Minotaur with Citadels being achieved. Like, what cruiser kills other cruisers this way? What cruiser does this to cruisers? And I cannot think of one, honestly. And I don't like it. I just don't like it. I mean, I feel like we should have done some kind of different take on Hindi. I'm not, I don't want to complain too much because it's a great ship and it's fun, cruisers on top, all that. But I just there's something that really rubs me the wrong way about how like I can pop out on half HP to a like any full HP cruiser and know I can kill it. I don't know. I mean, is that good game design? Like, is that a balanced ship that you can just full HP PVO, he's dead. Oh, 75,000 HP Hawaii, I'm on 30k HP, pop out and rape him. Just completely massacre him. Anally fist him. 5k every 4 seconds. I mean, I got no problem with cruisers doing it to BBs, but back to the USN thing, like, what is the deal, dude? Like, what is the deal with every ship just being anti-USN? It's so crazy. I mean, I guess it's how we compensate for USN bias, but it's so silly to me that it's like, that's Wargaming's thing now is like, here's a ship, pretty good on paper. What if it just pen 38? Thoughts? You guys go with that? What if it pen 38? Like the reason why PVO is 234s and not 240s is just to fuck USN BBs. The reason why like all of these ships, like Irresistible pens 38, not 40, is just for fucking USN BBs. Cause like there's no value in having 38 mil pen over 32 if there's no USN ships in the lobby, right? Like those are specifically, yeah, okay, there's like 3 boats in the game with 35 belt and deck. But Marseille 36. You know what I mean, right? There's basically no value in having 38 mil pen over a 32 mil pen unless you're farming a USN ship. So I'm not a fan. I say this all the time. I am not a fan of winner and loser game design. I am not a fan of loading in the Bremen and being like double Maine and Montana, fuck Hindenburg. Or loading in the Bremen and seeing Yamato, Vermont, 2 Columbos and going, fuck Bremen. I'm not a fan of that personally. I don't really know what the solution to that is. I think it would be a lot more interesting if we experimented with like maybe a different, a different type of damage output rather than just mindlessly farming versus Hindenburg. Because basically, my problem with this versus Hindenburg is they just play the same. Um, one isn't necessarily better than the other. I think they have hit a pretty okay balance. I would like to see probably floatier shells on this boat so we can't fist cruisers as hard. And DDs, oh my god, you catch a DD at like 10 km, they're just instantly deleted. So I don't know what the answer to that is. It's a great ship. I love it. Lighthouse, super good and fun. Probably not as good overall as D-Tech, but we will now hop back into the port and go over the build. Okay, the build, nothing, weird. The only difference really between Lighthouse and normal, we're running steering gears mod 2, of course, instead of detection. And on the captain, there's kind of a couple takes on Lighthouse build you could go for. We're running this with Eye in the Sky and 3 1 points. Now, on Bremen, because you don't get the bonus heal on Hindenburg, you do have to take Superintendent. You could argue part of the value of Hindi is you don't have to run Superintendent. I still do. I like the extra heal. But on Bremen, I would definitely run Super. You could run outnumbered. The thing is, you have, like, what, 18.1 km gun range? Sometimes it'll come in handy. Most of the time, not. Um, Kind of on that upper edge, I would say. Typically I like outnumbered a lot on the 15 to 17 km range ships. To me, like Hindenburg at what 17.6, that's at 18.1. Kind of on that upper end, but it's not a bad skill. You could definitely lose survivability and grab outnumbered. Totally valid. Um, I do really like the turret traverse because the turret traverse is not great, especially given the reload. Um, so I like the turret traverse because if you don't run improved grease the gears on Lutians, then you're looking at like a 30-second turret traverse. Um, definitely last stand, definitely eye on the sky. Now here's kind of the debate. Okay, let's say we've bought into these 18 points. The base fire chance on the shells is low. So because the base fire chance, we're running the flags if I'm not mistaken. Yes. So the base fire chance is 8%. We're buffing it to 9% with the double fire flag. Slapping demo expert on is 10% more fires per minute, right? So the lower your fire chance per shell, the more value demo expert has on your cruiser. Um, with this lighthouse build, we're already at 20 fires a minute. I mean, to me, it's not necessarily that great, but you could definitely drop gun feeder and turret traverse for 10% more fires. My thing with this boat is like it just shits fires on cooldown anyway. Like probably good enough to just run the flags or not even run the flags at all. But totally valid. Lose 2 of these 1 pointers. I would probably keep last stand. You don't really need gun feeder to be clear. 4.5 second reload on full HP. Do you really need gun feeder? Probably not. Right. Um, but it's an option. Right. It's an option. And then we will look at the armor. And basically the difference is there's actually a little bit of a difference. You get 25 nose and ass, which means you're quite a bit more susceptible to certain ships. Like you can't go perfectly bow into Colombo or Borgone at close range and get away with it really, but everything else is basic. 30 deck. Now if we compare this to Hindenburg, let's do that real quick. Bear with me here. Um, as you can see, basically the same armor. Basically the same armor, but 25 or 20, sorry, 27 on Hindenburg. It's not like the most important thing because the 25 nose on Bremen isn't like huge. But it is nice to load into, double Colombo and be able to go perfectly bow in and only take 10k instead of 20. So a little bit of an asset there. But other than that, I mean, it's similar size superstructure, similar size ship, right? Not too much different there. I mean, of course, Hindenburg has. Sorry, we're looking at the wrong boat. Of course, Hindenburg is like way tankier turrets, if that matters to you. You're more likely to not lose a turret in Hindenburg, but yeah, that's about it. Incredibly good ship in the Lighthouse spec. And that will do it for the Lighthouse spec Bremen Part 1, and we will see you tomorrow for Full Conceal Part 2. As always, thank you for watching, and have a good one. We'll catch you later.